This is CNN getting eviscerated over their coverage of the genocide in Gaza on their own airwaves. Particularly, everyone should enjoy the look on the face of the anchor as this is going on. It's a couple of minutes long, but it's worth every minute of it. The joy of watching the look on the face of the anchor at CNN as she basically has to sit there and hear what a pile of shit CNN is. And yeah, let's do it.
It does. What do you think is going to happen with this humanitarian crisis, with the additional factor of Gaza is about to enter the winter, which often brings heavy rain to the region?
Kate, in all honesty, a humanitarian crisis is what you deal with when you have a hurricane, what you deal with when you have an earthquake. You have an insult and a humanitarian response. This is my career. This is what I do for a living. Every single person who does this for a living will tell you the same thing. This is different. This is not a humanitarian crisis. Kate, and I'm going to say it very clearly for your viewers to hear, this is genocide. When 70% of the population that are killed are women and children, when the population is starved of food, of water, of medicine, when you have attacks, repeated attacks on all the hospitals, the clinics, the aid distribution sites, the humanitarian aid agencies that try to help. More UN workers have been killed in Gaza than in UN's history. When you have over 900 families that have been exterminated, that have been taken off of the civil registry, killed. When you have over 17,000 children that have lost one or both parents. When you have bakeries, aid distribution sites, churches, mosques, schools, and in the last 3 days, in the last 24 hours, in fact, a hospital today that was bombed, as you just reported, the hospital where I personally was working, and I can tell you, they are working every second of every day to try and sustain life when Israel's strategy and evidence on the ground suggests that they're doing the exact opposite. They were targeted today. There was a rehabilitation hospital, rehabilitation center that was targeted in the last 24 hours, and there was an orphanage that was targeted earlier this week. These are the types of places that are being targeted. And so it's really hard to hear it over and over and over again, framed in the way that it's being framed in the media, which frankly, Kate, is very misleading. It is very misleading. 365 days of this. Death tolls that are so far outdated, we have no idea how many people are killed, but I am genuinely afraid about what we're going to find out when the dust settles. History books will be written on this, and countries will have to reckon, media agencies will have to reckon with their major role in the genocide of an entire population and in the destruction of humanitarian law.
Amazing. Amazing. That clip is worth every minute of it. To get all of those points out there on CNN's own airwaves and to obliterate their reason for being. I mean, the point of CNN in this world, supposedly, if you believe what they say, is to inform viewers. And this doctor who's been in Gaza, who's seen it firsthand, is saying on their own airwaves that you guys are complicit in this. This could not and would not be allowed if you didn't have the propaganda outlets spitting their lies or their lies by omission, which are as important as the straight up lies. And by the way, I consider all the euphemisms that are used, they are lying. When she says, what's it like to have a humanitarian crisis there? That's a form of lying. By choosing to say humanitarian crisis instead of choosing to say genocide, instead of choosing to say ethnic cleansing, instead of choosing to say a massacre, which by the way, every time you hear them talk about October 7th, what do they call it? They call it a massacre. They call it a massacre. They call it an atrocity. When they talk about Gaza, most of these mainstream networks say humanitarian crisis. They say it's a war. Oh, really? Is it a war against children? Because they seem to be the number one type of person being murdered. Is it a war against women and children? Is it a war against innocent people? Because that's the only way this could be a war. Totally revolting, of course, to see these lies, this propaganda, but it was wonderful to see this doctor absolutely tear apart CNN's role in this. A lot of people say, oh, it's just like they haven't done a good job. No, they've actually done a very good job at what their job is, which is to manufacture consent for war, to manufacture consent for this genocide, to manufacture consent for the U.S. empire to continue marching us off this blindly like zombies off this cliff of humanity where we no longer care at all about international law, about humanitarianism, about innocent people. We no longer care at all about it. That's where they're marching us, and they are complicit. And it was beautiful to see her do such an effective job of saying that clearly on CNN. Some people are asking, why did CNN allow this? Well, I can tell you, when something like this goes on CNN, and I've been in news studios, actually I've been on CNN once, I've been on Fox News once, I've been on MSNBC once, because that's the number of times they'll have you on before they, if you speak the truth, realize you speak the truth and they don't want you there anymore. And by the way, all those appearances were pre-redacted tonight, because now I have such a record that if they look me up, they would not have me on those shows. Anyway, when they have someone like this on, they have her on, they had her on because she is a doctor who's been in Gaza, and they were genuinely looking for a view of what's going on there. What they didn't think she'd do, because very rarely is it done, they didn't think she'd call them complicit. They probably were also hoping she wouldn't use the word genocide, but they certainly didn't think that she was going to say, hey, you guys are a part of this. You guys are helping cause this. And when that happens, they don't cut it off, because here's the thing they've learned. It took them a little while, I think, back in the 60s through the 90s, but they learned that cutting the feed or interrupting and go, oh, we gotta go to a break. It felt good at the time, but now that all that stuff goes viral, like if they had cut the feed, it would have gone viral online even more so than it has. So they now let the person finish talking, and then they say, okay, thanks a lot, and then they never invite them back. That's the new procedure. It used to be to cut it off, but now they've realized that actually is worse